Hello, Earth Angels, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Academy. As you can see, I am very cozy today, and I have no intention of changing that. Today, we're going to do a cozy Q&A. We're going to just answer some of you guys' questions from Instagram and jam, talk about life. It's going to be really chill, and we're going to be cozy while we do it. So if you're not in a cozy outfit, pause the episode, go put on your pajamas. I'm just kidding. But if you're not in a cozy setting, it's okay. But I like when you guys are cozy with me. So just know that casual, comfy is the vibe today. I've actually been changing my style a little bit. My style inspiration is Alex Cooper. You guys probably know her, Call Her Daddy. I mean, biggest podcast ever. But I just love how she does the super casual but elevated look. She's wearing baggy things all the time, but it's elevated. You know what I mean? And that's what I aspire to be. So I've been kind of playing around with my style. You guys know I love identity work. And one of the best ways to do identity work is with what you're wearing and your style. And so that's part of Kristen 3.0 that I'm creating right now is I love my spiritual clothes, but I also want this almost coastal, cozy, elevated feel. You know what I mean? We're just playing around with that. And this is also a good moment to say that if you haven't gotten my free 3-day Icon Identity Challenge to help you create your new identity and step into it, you can get that below. I love the Icon Identity Challenge because identity work has hands down been the thing that helped me quantum leave my income, my house, literally everything. Identity work is it. And people think that they're doing identity work, but if you don't actually understand the person you're becoming, if you're not super fucking specific with how she walks, talks, dresses, her habits, then you're not really doing identity work. You know what I mean? So it really does walk you through the process of finding your new identity. And I love identity work. So go get that. Also, if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Kristen. I am a spiritual mentor, mindset coach, channel, business coach. I don't know. I'm a lot of things, guys, but really I'm here to help you live your best life, step into your soul's purpose, heal what's holding you back, and just be the best you, because what the heck is the point of life if not that? Today, we're going to just answer a ton of random questions. It's going to be fun. It's going to be serious. It's going to be not serious. It's going to be all the things. I just did a Q&A on my Instagram, and that's what we're going to pull from. Now, this first question, I love it. And I love answering this question. It's how do I build self-trust? This is such a good question because if you don't trust yourself, you can't do anything. I feel like self-trust is the foundation where everything else stems from. If you don't trust yourself, you're not gonna be able to build a business. You're not gonna be able to post consistently. You're not gonna be able to reach literally any goal because you're gonna self-sabotage. You know what I mean? I like to explain self-trust with an analogy of a friend. Now, let's say that I have a new friend and we have plans to hang out, and me and this new friend are okay, let's go get coffee at the park at 10 a.m. And so it's 9:45. I'm arriving to the park. I text the friend and they're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to make it. And I'm like, okay, annoying, but it's fine. All right, no worries. When can you hang out? She's like, tomorrow morning, let's do it. So I'm like, okay. So the next day at 10 a.m. or maybe that night, she texts me and she's like, hey, I got home really late. I'm not going to be able to meet for coffee in the morning. And I'm like, okay, cool. Second time you didn't show up for me. Noted. She's like, how about we do lunch next week? And I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll try one more time. And then I go to lunch and she's late. And then she has to leave early. I don't know. I'm just making this up. Do you think I'm going to trust that friend? Did that friend do what she said she was going to do? Is she trustworthy? No, of course she's not trustworthy. And that's the same with the relationship with yourself. If you are constantly saying you're going to do things and then you never follow through, or you're flaky with yourself, you are going to have zero self-trust. Then you're going to want to say, I want to build a business, but you don't even trust yourself to show up 2 days in a row because you never do it with anything else. And so I like to say, trust is built in small moments, just like it's lost in small moments. Those 3 instances where the friend didn't show up, they are really small instances, but over time, that builds up to somebody having no trust in you. You know what I mean? And so it's the exact same with anything else. For you to build self-trust now, how I do this with my clients is we start very small. I'm like, what is 2 things that you can commit to this week that you absolutely can get done? sometimes you're like, okay, I want to post 6 times this week. I'm like, no. We're not going to set yourself up for failure. How about let's post 2 times this week? Can you absolutely do that? They're like, yeah, for sure. I could probably even do 3. And I'm like, great, let's do that. What's one more thing? They're like, go for a walk every day. I'm like, amazing. 4 times a week, let's go for a walk this week. If they can start to show up for themselves in small ways, they are subconsciously building self-trust with themselves. And that is the foundation where now they can trust themselves to show up in different ways. And so if you're struggling with self-trust, that's where you want to start, is in small ways. Over time, that will lead up to bigger ways where it's like you do want to start the business or, do something scary, and you will follow through with it. I have such an unshakable self-trust within myself. Like, I always do what I'm going to say I'm going to do, almost to a fault, where it's like I need more feminine energy. Because of that, I love setting goals. I love reaching my goals. And I know that I will show up for those things just because it's so trained within me at this point. The second question is, what protocol do you recommend for microdosing? So there's a ton of protocols for microdosing. I mean, honestly, there's hundreds of ways that you can approach it. A really popular way that I love to start my clients with is the Fadman protocol. It's like this famous protocol, I'm pretty sure, from this guy that did a lot of research. And it's 1 day on, 2 days off. 1 day on, 2 days off. So you just kind of continue that for like 10 to 14 weeks, I believe. It just allows for the microdose to do its thing. And then usually it's still a little bit in your brain on day 2. And then day 3, it's completely detoxed. And then you do it again. And this helps you see the benefits of it. As you guys know, I'm a huge microdosing girly. And if you are not familiar with microdosing, it is taking a very, very small amount of psilocybin mushrooms. You're not high. You can barely feel it, genuinely. Like, unless you take enough of it, you barely can feel the microdose. But it just gives you this little lift. It's like your brain just feels 10% different. Maybe you're a little more emotional, or maybe you're a little thinking deeper. It depends. Mushrooms give you what you need, not what you want, but it's really good for doing healing work. It's just really good. I mean, I can do a whole episode on microdosing, but that's the protocol that I give my clients. At this point, for me, I'm not really on a protocol. I do it very intuitively. I probably wrote microdose 3 times a week, and it's very intuitive. I try to take some days off for sure, but now it's 3 days a week average and a couple days off in between. I really do it when I have busy days or I need to be super creative. I love taking it when I need to be creative or write content. Then it's really helpful for that. So that's a little bit about microdosing. This question says, how to believe in yourself when you don't. So I want to remind you guys that no one came onto this planet not believing in themselves. Lack of self-belief or lack of confidence is learned, and it's typically an inner child wound where we weren't taught how to believe in ourselves, or we witnessed other people not believing in ourselves, so we learned that we are less than. This is learned. This is not the truth. The best way you can heal this is with inner child work. Going down and finding the root of where you learned that you are not good enough, that you cannot complete or do what you want to do. This could have been an experience. This could have been someone telling you. This could have been bullying, whatever it is, and then going to reprogram it with inner child work. I do feel like people don't really understand what I mean by when I say reprogram it. So the way that I teach inner child work is you find the core root memory. Sometimes you can't find it, but sometimes you know the general idea of what happened, right? So let's actually go through an example. Let's say that you are working through this trigger of you want to start a business, but you don't believe in yourself, right? And every time you try to go start it, you procrastinate. This is a very typical one with my clients. You might use the journal questions that I give in my inner child meditation, which you can get down below. And it's actually a new one, so go grab it. And you find that the root of where you stopped believing in yourself is when your stepdad made fun of you for a drawing or doing something that you wanted to do. I don't know. I'm just making it up. How you would reprogram this is you would go down to that memory and you would give your inner child what she needed but never received. So you might remember it differently. Now, because we're in our subconscious mind, your brain doesn't know what's made up or fake. And so by you giving her maybe a new stepdad that does believe in her, or maybe even a stepdad that's an entrepreneur that's oh my God, you're going to be so good at this one day. Absolutely, you can do whatever you want in this life. Of course, I believe in you. you are giving that little girl, aka you, the validation that she needed but never received. It's changing your vibrational frequency in your brain of you believing in yourself, and now your adult self doesn't feel inadequate or less than. So your adult self can take action. So that's just like a little synopsis of kind of how it works. Sometimes you have to go over the memories a couple times because these memories are deep. The wound is deep, and reprogramming it happens through either intensity or repetition. So it can be a really intense healing where you have a huge release and you cry and you let go of all that trauma, or you might have to go over it a few times, maybe in a little different of ways. And then you're like, wow, I actually am starting to believe in myself. And then those actions that you're taking are reinforcing it as well. So there's a lot of ways to kind of navigate it, but you can also get my inner child masterclass that goes over all this kind of in depth if you want to learn more. This next question says, what are your best tips for someone who's just getting started or interested in coaching? I would say either join a coaching container so you can learn like what the process is of like what it looks like to be the coachee. And I would say just start. I mean, people overcomplicate this part. I think that there's one of two things that happen when you just start. Number one, you're going to come up on your exact limiting beliefs that you need to work on. And then you have a lot of work to do there, right? That's kind of my niche. I help people with the inner work so that they can actually show up for their dreams. I also help people with intuitive guidance. Like I help people open their own gifts or build their business, but you're going to see what your blocks are. Number two, maybe you have more work to do where you need to get mentored in a way that gives you more information or helps you become that type of person. I think sometimes people have this desire to be a coach and then they deal with all this inner shit that comes up and they're like, oh, maybe it's not it. And it's not that maybe it's not it. Like maybe it's just not it right now. Like maybe you need to heal for 6 more months and really go in on yourself so that you can be the type of person that can coach people through. I mean, before I was coaching people, guys, I've been on my spiritual journey since I was 17 and I started coaching when I was like 23 or 24, something like that. I feel like I didn't just like jump into spirituality and was like, I want to be a coach. Like I had been walking the walk for a long time. And I think people think of that as a failure, but it's not a failure. Like if this is really your path and your journey, you're going to get there eventually. Just sometimes you got to deal with some of the inner work and the shit that's going on inside. And I think that no amount of healing is a waste of time. So I would say just start. I mean, literally like create an account and start posting. You know what I mean? That's what I did. And then when I didn't know what to do, I hired a coach to help me what to do. So I would say hire a coach or just start. These two are like kind of similar, so I'm going to answer them together. One of the questions says how to constantly show up when you aren't satisfied with the results or showing up even when you're getting low views. I think that really what you're talking about is how do I show up in the messy middle? When it's not working, what do I do? The thing is if you can only show up when it's working, you don't really believe in yourself. So right there, you should be doing some inner work around how can I believe in myself even when I don't get results? I have been really thinking about this word. I've been telling all my clients about this. So if you're my client, you might know. This word of inevitable. It's such a powerful word. When something is inevitable, it's going to happen no matter what. That is the energy you need to hold if you're growing a business. My success is inevitable. It's going to happen. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's going to. If you knew your success was inevitable, you would show up in a completely different way online. You would show up every day, right? It's because the lack of validation is giving you self-doubt, and then it's causing you to not show up, which is making you doubt yourself more. It's a loop, right? And so you need to, number one, work on self-belief, do inner child work to validate that part of you that's feeling less than. And number three, decide beforehand that you are all in. All in is an energy. When I am growing an account, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, now YouTube, my blow up is inevitable. I already decide that beforehand. I am going to be huge on this platform. I don't know when. I don't know which video is going to blow up. It doesn't matter how much money I need to make. It is inevitable. And I shared this on a story. You know, I'm growing my YouTube right now, and it is the hardest thing I've ever done. Like out of all the platforms, you can post 10 long form videos and you get 5 followers, 20 followers. Like it is a slow growth, and it really tests like how bad you want it. And full transparency, guys, like I've hired a YouTube manager. I'm not getting paid from my podcast yet. Like this is completely free out of pocket. You know what I mean? And so I am chucking out. I've checked out probably already like almost $10,000 all in all. And I haven't seen anything back. And people don't see what's going on behind the scenes. You know, they think like, oh, she's just growing. Like, no, I'm spending a lot of money. I'm investing in this. And I know it's inevitable that it's going to pop. I know it is. I know I'm going to be a huge YouTuber one day and I'm going to have a huge podcast on YouTube. And I don't care when it happens. I don't care how long it takes because I'm going to keep going until it happens. That's the energy you have to have with your business. That's the energy I had with coaching. For 2 years, I had like less than 2,000 followers, less than 1,000 followers for a year of that. And I was posting day in and day out. Like, I don't care what blows up. I just know it's going to blow up, you know? And so you really have to have that entrepreneurial spirit. I think that so much of entrepreneurship is soft these days. It's just soft. It's like, guys, real businesses put in $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 loans. At first, they're negative $500,000. And then these coaches out here, you know, there's no barrier to entry, which I understand like can be a blessing and a curse, but they're like, oh, I got to invest $5,000 on a business program. I'm like, guys, this is entrepreneurship. You want to be making $200,000 a year? Well, you got to put money for it. You know, you got to have some skin in the game. And so I think that we really have to just come back to this. What does all in mean? Like, are you really all in? Are you really willing to take a risk on yourself? Entrepreneurship at its definition is like somebody who endures more financial risk than a normal person. If you like security, if you like, you know, knowing where your money is going to come from, entrepreneurship's just not for you. So you really got to decide, like, do you want it or not? And I'm not trying to be hard on you, but I'm just trying to be real because not a lot of people are real with you about how hard it is. It's not hard, but it takes a lot of grit and a lot of moments where you're like, is this going to work? Am I doing it right? You got to believe in yourself. And I want to say, like, being unconditional is a huge part of this too. I am unconditional in my belief in myself. That means that there's no conditions that make me not believe in myself. Can you be unconditional in joy and happiness and belief, even when it's seemingly not working? That is what mastery is. That is what mastering the middle is. People can only be happy with the conditions. True manifestation, true mastery, true reality mastery is I am unconditional in my feelings. I am deciding how I want to feel, what I want to attune to, no matter what I'm seeing. Because the truth is, guys, is whatever you're seeing in your 3D reality, it's fucking outdated. It's old. It's 3 days old. I don't know. I'm just making that up. Like, it's old, you know, it's your past vibration. So what you're feeling now, what you're attuning to now is what tomorrow is going to be, what the next day is going to be. What you do now determines your future. So how do you want to feel in your future? Okay, collapse time, feel it now. It's really simple. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's very simple when you really learn how to do it. This is an interesting question. I think it'll be just fun to jam on this. It says, I am quickly interrupting this episode to remind you guys that if you're a listener, which clearly you are, I have created a free meditation for all of you. This meditation was built out of my rock bottom when I needed to trust the universe and release a lot of anxiety I was feeling, and I didn't know how. So I learned how to trust the universe, and I'm going to teach you how in this meditation. It's really practicing this feeling of being held and supported and remembering that you actually are held and supported by the universe in every single moment. All you have to do to get this meditation is to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, and then go ahead and head over to my podcast Instagram at Alignment Academy Podcast, give it a follow, and then message me on there with a screenshot of your rating or review, whatever platform you're listening on, and I will send you the meditation. Okay, now back to the episode. What's your take on psychic mediums channeling that a partner is your soulmate? You know, you have a lot of soulmates. I think that they could be your soulmate for right now. I also think that no matter what, even if someone is your soulmate, which to me means that they have a deep soul contract with you to maybe be a partner in this lifetime of some sort, doesn't have to be romantic. You have free will and they have free will. No one has to stay if it's unhealthy or if it's not in the highest good for both parties. I do think that just because someone's a soulmate, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, we have many soulmates. Like, let's say you have a soulmate, but then you evolve and they don't, and then you outgrow, like, frequency wise, that soulmate, you will get placed new options that resonate with your new frequency. I mean, new timelines are always being created. The universe is expanding every second. So Timelines are expanding every second. Potentials are expanding every second. That's why, you could have created a soul contract and a path for your life, and then you could have exceeded that. Like, honestly, that's where I think I am. I think that there's new potentials being created for me. That's what my guides have told me, because I've exceeded what I thought I could accomplish at this point. So now there's new timelines and new characters and new frequencies of people that are being put in my path because I'm going on a new timeline. So just because someone's a soulmate doesn't really mean anything. Follow your heart and let the universe show you what needs to happen, because there's always more soulmates. Best inner child practice. I think we kind of covered this. I'll do like a conscious and a subconscious one. The subconscious one is my inner child meditation. You can know your wounds and be aware of your inner child running the show all you want, guys. But if you're not doing the subconscious inner work to really heal the root of these memories and change your vibrational frequency, nothing is going to change. So if you haven't gotten that meditation, definitely get it down below. And then like on the daily, I think you can always just be saying like, what do I need? What would someone who loves themselves do? Is there any need that I can meet right now? There's moments in the day where I trigger myself with my thoughts, and I just put my hands on my heart and I'm like, I trust source. I trust myself. Everything's going to be okay. I got you. That's just validation, right? That's just like self-validation that I'm doing right there. I take a few deep breaths into my heart. I breathe in and out. I get back into my heart, and boom, I'm done. I'm ready. I'm good to go. And so I think that there's some smaller ways that you can do inner child work throughout the day. And then, sometimes you're going to have those bigger shifts through those meditations and the inner work, which are amazing. Like I had a client yesterday, she just started, and we were rooting down one of her inner child wounds. And, we found that every time she went to go work on her business, she would just drop it and procrastinate. And then we rooted it down to her stepdad. One time she was like drawing when she was younger, because she was an artist, and she was drawing, and she showed her stepdads the drawings. And he was like, why are you doing that? You're never going to be an artist. Those aren't even good. She was like 10, right? And like, that was traumatic. He was a really terrible guy, obviously. So that's what she's been doing to herself when she wants to start her business stuff. How crazy is that? And she was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was doing that to myself. I'm literally stopping before I can even go any further because I don't believe that I'm going to be successful. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. And so we did an inner child healing on it, all of that stuff. And it was really profound because we found the root of it. So that's just kind of like an example of how powerful inner child work can be when you actually just take the time to sit and find the root. And you can also book a session with me if you want to have a session on some inner child work. We do them live, and it's really powerful. We do some cord cutting, inner child work, quantum healing. I connect with your guides, all that good stuff. So you can book that below. This next question says, what does it look like when you set yourself up to microdose and to create content and to manifest? Okay. So number one, setting myself up to microdose. When I microdose, you just want to make sure you set an intention. The mushies are alive. They are a consciousness. They are working with you. So I like to put them in my hands, place them over my heart like this, and I speak to them. My intention usually is to feel source consciousness, to connect to my true essence, to be super creative, to be super productive. And then I put them back. I usually take them first thing in the morning, right after my meditation. I love taking them before, but usually I just forget because I meditate sometimes in my bed. Then I go about my day. I go work out usually, and that's it. So that is my microdosing. They usually take 30 minutes to hit. And if you are wondering where to get microdoses from, I will link Smile below. It's an order form that they've created for my community. So you can just fill out the order form. They'll message you. And if you have any questions, that they'll answer the message. I get Rise and Shine, which are the microdoses. They also have gummies for more like concerts and stuff, or like fun days. And those are Euphoria. So you're going to want to get Rise and Shine if you're interested in microdosing with Smile. I'll link it below. What does my setup look like when I create content? So my content is very channeled through me. Usually it comes through on a walk or while I'm working out or in the shower, unfortunately. So I write most of my content like very sporadically. I've told you guys this, like usually I'm like mid-set at the gym, and then I'm like, oh, there's a piece of content, and then I just write it down in my notes, and then I finish it later when I get to my desk. And then reels, obviously sometimes they are channeled, like I'm just like, oh, I need to make a reel about this. Like the other day when I was at the GFL event in Los Angeles, I had a reel come into my mind and I wrote it down, and then today I created it because I just knew the information, and it was about like timeline shifting. So go look at that on TikTok if you haven't seen it. It's a really good reel. And so I make them typically like when I have space in my day. That's like my process for creating content. It's usually pretty day of, to be completely honest, which is not good or bad. It's just my process of doing it. And then manifesting. So for manifesting, I write down the potential with Joe Dispenza stuff. Usually I write the letter and like the things that I want. So like, let's say I'm manifesting a house. I write H for house, circle around it, squiggly lines around that. This is in Becoming Supernatural, this whole exercise. And then I write on the left, like any of the conditions that I want. So maybe I want it to be like over this square footage, less than this amount of money. I put all the conditions. And then on the right, I put the emotions, 3 to 4 emotions that I'm going to feel when I have it. And then I might feel excited, proud, worthy, and confident. And so then when I'm in my meditation, my Joe Dispenza meditation, I will tune to those emotions and stick that potential in the quantum field. So I'm in nothing. I send out the signal of the H into the house, and then I go down one by one on my emotions, and I feel it. I feel really proud. I'm so excited. I'm in my new house. I feel what it would feel like to walk around. I feel all the emotions, and I just visualize. And then when it's done, I put it into the universe and I say, bring this to me in the way that I least expect it, in the way that's right for me. And I hold the frequency after. If I can't hold the frequency, I go back into meditation, right? I work on that thing day after day until I can hold the frequency. And that's kind of my process for manifestation. If there's any blocks coming up, I do inner child work around it as well, using my inner child meditation. Like, let's say I'm manifesting a house, but I'm feeling really unworthy. This actually happened. And then I rooted it down because when I was younger and I lived in Florida, the house that I lived in was a lot smaller and not as nice as the houses around me. So I felt a little unworthy when I was manifesting my house of the house that I actually wanted. So what I did instead was I went back to that memory and I gave myself the validation. All my friends came over to my house and it was a beautiful house and I felt so worthy of having all my friends over, and I rewired that so that the core frequency within my being was that I'm worthy of the house that I desire. And then literally like a few days after that, that's when my house manifested through. So that's kind of how I approach manifestation. Obviously some things take longer than others, but that's like my favorite way to manifest these days. This last question is, what are your favorite meditations that you're doing right now? I'm guessing you're talking about Joe Dispenza. I'll also put in inner child work is something that I'm doing pretty heavily right now because there's been a lot of stuff that comes up. Since I did that first, like these are my favorite Joe Dispenza meditations. I will say they've changed quite a bit because when I was first doing Joe Dispenza before I went to the retreat, I was doing pretty short meditations, like anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes max. And now I do mostly like 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes an hour and 30 minutes, usually just once a week that long. But right now, my favorite ones are synchronizing to a new life. That's an hour and 30 minutes, but I love that one. So the whole synchronizing series is really good. Changing boxes is my favorite right now. Blessings of the energy centers. Those are my top 3. And honestly, I'm just going to leave it at that. You can go down a rabbit hole with Joe Dispenza. I mean, like I could do a whole nother podcast on that. So maybe I will, but those are my favorite right now. Those are all the questions I have. I feel like that's a good place to stop. I mean, we learned so much. If you enjoyed this episode, if you found some juicy goodness in it, please send it to a friend. It's how my podcast grows. And if you want to work with me in the coming months, I will be opening Alignment Mastery soon, which is my 3-month mentorship for women who are ready to heal their self-doubt, show up confidently, and build a life of fulfillment. It's basically an inner work program for entrepreneur-esque people who have big vision for their life. So there's inner child work, shadow work, identity work, life curation work, all that good stuff. Fulfillment from the heart work, values, all that good stuff. So if you're interested in joining Alignment Mastery, feel free to book a call with me and see if you're a good fit. I think we're starting that mid-June. So that will be exciting. And yeah, I'm excited to see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for playing along with me. Thank you for always being in my world. I love you guys so much. I love this podcast so much. I know one day I'm going to have a whole podcast studio and I'm going to do this full time. Just wait, I'm manifesting it, and have the most amazing guests on. Also, yeah, if you guys have any guest requests, send them to me. DM me. I love when you guys DM me and tell me like your biggest takeaway or who you want on or topics, things like that. So anyway, I love you guys. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Mwah.